122. 122 tells me that I have about an hour and a half down here looking at the beautiful signaling train trestles. It's interesting. The X symbolizes the sun, it symbolizes communication, the kiss of communication, as I like to think of it. And yeah, I mean, everything good comes from communication, right? Although communication has caution, has ka, which means death, right? Ka, muna, caution, communica, ka, muni, munica, 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 mune, commune. It's not immune, it's commune, communication. And I have trouble with these words. I don't know how far you want to take it. It's like, anyway, X is turned into the X-ray, which is like the deadly rays from the sun, right? But the communication of the sun is not deadly. And I've had communication with the sun today. Symbols that now I say are more of the sun and of people than they are of various cults. And X and the circle. I mean, look at how useful it is architecturally, the X, right? You know, who knew? Beautiful trees. So 122, almost 130. Getting the last light of the sun here. Just being with my heart, being with some pretty awful things. You know, there was other women involved, but the person that really took 12 years of what I built up in terms of respect or whatever, people know you at all, make it natural. He destroyed it in 2 minutes. You know, he just decided to tear it up on the word of a distraught female or two or three, and that we're passing along bad information, and that's for him to take and learn from. They need to know that. That's all. They need to know that that's wrong, and that's all I care about. Very passive aggressive way of communicating, which is scary. Passive aggression is the worst type of aggression because it functions upon paralyzing someone in public, say, and then making them just crucifying them, essentially persecuting them, accusing them of things. He came up close to me, the closest he came in our last conversation, and put his head down and said, you know, said that things were friendly, and then you became unfriendly. It was the opposite of the truth. And I'd already told him that 2 weeks ago, what happened. But it wasn't just what he was saying, like someone else has another point of view. It was that there was no other point of view. He wasn't going to talk to me about this. This was just the fact. Okay? I have this against you, and that's it. I'm holding this against you. You have to answer to this crime. It is yours. And if you fail to do so, I'm going to execute an increased amount of, well, I've deprived you of all natural safety in this store because I do not consider you someone worth protecting on any level. You know, that's a story that you have. That's a story that you have in your mind. Story. Excuse me. And it took a hell of a lot of energy on my part, anger, because it was over at that point. The moment, he opened his mouth that day, the moment he walked up to me, it was over. It was over minutes after I had made my first complaint. It was already over. There's no way I was going to be able to keep shopping in these stores. It was done, over. It was removed from me without any consideration or conversation. It was just ripped up and removed from me. Imagine someone just tearing up a contract but not telling you. I was removed from that store. I was anathema. I was persona non grata. Right? And you could feel it. I was persona non grata. I had been eliminated from all safety and considered. And I wasn't even notified in so many words. And yet everything told me that something was wrong. It was the most hostile possible set of conditions. Using so many words to tell me. Oh, then I was unsafe. In that store. And that's unfortunate. You know, you can have understanding for why someone might do that, and go to that extreme without talking to you. Like, is it not worth a conversation? You know, especially since I'm complaining several times over about my concerns for my personal safety. Unbeknownst to me, there's this other world going on, and man, that's you're glad and grateful on the one hand, but you're now never, 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 like some video game you never want to play again. Never, never, never gonna go anywhere. Actually, I'm not even gonna go in a city block if I can avoid it, of any of these franchises. The two of them they have, one just a block away from my house. Right? And here I am, the guy saying that. I mean, things happen and you deal with it, right? They're interesting and they're experiences. Things happen and you deal with them. Right? Maybe I don't sound completely convinced, but that's the case nonetheless. Oh, sunlight. You live with it. You know, people make their decisions. You make your decisions. So the one thing that you really take out of it is that in every possible way, I got the understanding up until like 2 weeks ago that I am absolutely not welcomed around, regardless of the truth or reality or anything else. And that people either that used to be or are in their employ may likely think of me as a rapist. Okay. And I have to conduct my business and live in the area and just live with that fact. Okay? That's how the disease sort of metastasized. It would mark the second and third times in my life where I've been accused of rape or child molestation. This is something not uncommon in or from women who have been sexually abused and find themselves at a crossroads where they're not getting what they want from someone, and they're interrupting their usual mode of going about getting it from various people, some of whom might contest how they go about doing so, legally, ethically, health, endangerment. You feel endangered and you feel shocked, and you have to tell people like, I'm going to have to assess damages for 10 more years in my life in terms of the impact on my life to be somewhere and to have all that kind of concern for my own safety to be completely removed. And he says to me in our last conversation, I have to protect her. And you can just sort of hear an underlying statement of, I have not been protecting you. I don't see any possibility that you have even needed my protection. Why would you need me? You have none of it. She has all of it. Because if he's protecting me from her, or her from me, he's not protecting me from her, right? So that's, what is that? Sexism? Sexual harassment, at least, right? We don't know that it's not. And I said to these people, this is the kind of legal precedent we could set here, but I'm not going to. That would not be good for any of us. I wouldn't enjoy it. I'm not going to do that, even if that were possible. And, you would be looking at about a $25 million lawsuit, in any time in the next 10 to 12 years, depending on how I feel about things. But that's just not something that I really want to make as a threat or anything at all. I don't want that to be possible. I'm not working in that direction. That's not what I'm looking at. I wish you well. I don't have to say that I like you. I have to be honest. I don't have to say I like the situation. I don't have to say that this guy is not an unhealthy man. I don't have to say that you didn't, in fact, threaten me and tell me I couldn't come back, after I said I wouldn't be able to come back, and after he had already added even more humiliating public accusations than he'd already said that made it impossible for me to come back. And telling me that my safety had been of no concern of his or ostensibly theirs for weeks. And knowing how I felt and how I told them I feel, that those feelings get adequate evidence of that fact. And they ignored my words and my feelings in every sense. And I conducted myself with utter dignity and gentlemanly conduct and had not raised my voice or made any kind of aggressive move in any way to anyone. And as soon as my temper even came up, I excused myself from the premises for eternity. Notwithstanding the fact that I had been told in so many ways that there would no point in me ever returning and feeling safe shopping there. And to find 2 years later, after I've avoided the entire city block, that I have any reason to believe that even on the outside of the premises, while waiting for another store to open, I have to believe that one of their employees that probably doesn't even know me that well, after the manager comes and goes in the loading dock, is glaring at me. And another former employee is strongly giving me to believe that they came to some understanding or suspicion that I was a rapist. The talk on defamation is about 2 years, the statute, and sexual harassment is quite open-ended, and it's just the way it is. But that's not the way I want to go. Okay, let's go. I don't really want to stay here, so let's go. My mom was totally right. She said, if you find your hat, it's going to be soaking. So, yep, gotcha. And this is kind of like the X as a stretch. Don't hurt yourself. It's stretching, stretching is what? A stretch what feels pleasurable and maybe even painful, but you don't hurt yourself. You breathe not because it's good, because breathing maintains focus, and focus helps you avoid injury in all things. Whenever I think I'm in danger, I make sure I breathe. Also, danger changes your breathing. So if somebody bears you ill, like the last few days, I shouldn't say I've gotten used to it, but I know when people think of me as like just the biggest, most threatening thing in the world, and that as someone who's been scapegoated, that's an awful thing to feel. When people, I never want people to be too afraid of me, but if people are doing wild things in the world, I'm obliged to kind of, as peaceful as I can, let them know, like, you're not in any particular danger for me, legally or otherwise, but you should know that one has given the other some cause to consider the damage and impact of various things, whether you attribute such and such a significance to it or not. I do. I have the right to attribute all kinds of significance to it. Let's go. Turn this on.